Good evening, everyone. We will start the workshop now. We will talk about one initiative that brings companies to make commitments for biodiversity in their work. Julie will introduce first this initiative called Transport for Nature at the European level, and then we will have a series of different presentations. Thank you, Julie.
So, hello everyone, thank you for participating to this workshop. So what is Transport for Nature? Transport for Nature was an initiative launched in 2021 and at the UICN Congress in Marseille. And the ambition of Transport for Nature is to create a collective European dynamic to encourage transport and energy companies to take commitments for biodiversity. Transport for Nature followed the framework of Act for Nature. Act for Nature was launched 6 years ago in France, and you have now 100 companies involved in Act for Nature. And Transport for Nature is a sectorial initiative involving European transport and energy companies, and its objective, its ambition, it's to help companies to take commitments for biodiversity. So, how to join Transport for Nature? First, you have adhered to the 10 common commitments that we will see set by Act for Nature and to be signed by the CEOs. And after that, companies have to make individual commitments recognized as SMART. It means specific, measurable, additional, realistic, and time-bound by the Alliance partners. Once the companies took the commitments, they sent their commitments to our steering committee composed of NGOs, scientists, business network, and there the Alliance partners work on the commitments and help the companies to see, help and see if the commitments are smart. We focus on one of to help the companies to take commitments. We have those 10 general common commitments set up by Act for Nature, and we decided for this workshop to focus on one, the nature-based solution. Why? Because it's a new concept. Nature-based solution for sure exists since a long time, but the concept is new, and we wanted to see how companies take the opportunity to work with nature-based solution in the framework of Transport for Nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, this is the quality, but you can find it on the internet, okay? On the ENGIE website, you can go there and you see the Transport for Nature initiative that will lead you to the 10 general commitments that are signed by companies. Sorry. But as Julie said, we will focus on the fifth one on nature-based solutions. To introduce this concept, we invite Joanne Schante, which is the head of the Sustainable Innovation Strategy at EGIS, which is a company that promotes sustainable innovation for private and public sector. And she is also involved in European project, and she has wrote a publication on NBS in the nature positive economy. So, Joanne Schante, the floor is yours.
It's really the work of the contribution of many NBS projects across the EU, and there was also public consultation with lots of respondents across the EU. So, huge team efforts. So, before I dive into it, I just want to say a few words from a representative of DJ Research and Innovation of the European Commission, is that nature-based solutions are really at the center today of a paradigm shift towards a regenerative economy, which is respectful and more respectful of nature. We see that, as you were saying, they're starting to be well known, but they're increasingly becoming recognized internationally as a fundamental part of action for climate and biodiversity. And there's a growing number of businesses that are making the case for NBS already. But basically, the big message is that we want to move, and it's time to move from a niche to a broader movement. So, okay, next slide. Yes, I managed. So just a little definition, or actually two definitions that we like, just to really make sure that nature-based solutions is clear. This is a resolution. This is the definition stemming from a resolution of the United Nations Environment Assembly, which brings forward the importance of nature-based solutions as a multilateral definition. So NBS are actually actions to protect, conserve, restore, sustainably use, and manage natural or modified ecosystems, such as terrestrial, freshwater, coastal, and marine ecosystems. They're going to address social, economic, and environmental challenges effectively and adaptively, and they're going to be providing at the same time human well-being, ecosystem services, resilience, and biodiversity benefits. So very broad benefits. And also the objective, and that's coming from the resolution, is that to make sure that they respect social and environmental safeguards. Another definition from the European Commission that we like, which is almost more hands-on, is that the solution are inspired and supported by nature. So they don't imitate nature, but they're really inspired and supported by it. They are cost-effective, and they simultaneously provide environmental, social, economic benefits and help to build resilience. These solutions bring more and more diverse nature and natural features and processes into the cities, landscapes, and seascapes through locally adapted, resource-efficient, and systemic interventions. So NBS must therefore benefit biodiversity and support the delivery of a range of ecosystem services. Perhaps, sorry, I'm having difficulties moving to the next slide. Here we go. Right. There's actually behind the term of nature-based solutions, there's a whole opportunity, and when we talk about opportunity, we really mean the market opportunity. We've seen that there's a growing demand for NBS to meet climate and biodiversity targets, and the estimations that we have and that we've deduced from the research is that the current demand and investment, which is $113 billion, is aiming to triple by 2030. Today, the vast majority of these investments and demand are coming from the public sector, which has been really leading the development, delivery, and long-term stewardship of nature-based solutions. And there's a real need to increase the private sector investment and involvement more broadly in NBS, with a bigger pie and a bigger share of the pie to anticipate for the private sector as an opportunity. And this in turn is going to fuel private sector supply of NBS. And here I'd just like to introduce briefly the concept of nature-based enterprises, which are actually SMEs or can be corporations as well, that are involved in NBS. What they are is organizations driven by a mission to work with and for nature to address societal and environmental challenges. And the main objective of these enterprises is to maximize nature positive and societal impact, and not primarily or as a first objective, maximize the economic impact. So that's really the difference compared to normal enterprises today. And here are some of the examples of the societal and environmental challenges that they deal with. And we see that with today's subject, which is about the transport infrastructure sector, there's a lot of these challenges that are covered. So whether it's the biodiversity enhancement, green space management, urban regeneration, etc. We've also come to, so this is also relating to the paper, but what we really try to see and to push for as well in terms of awareness raising for all stakeholders, not only economic, but also policy and others, is that we're actually going towards a nature positive economy, as we call it. And how we define it is it's an economy where businesses, governments, and all of their stakeholders are taking action at scale to reduce and remove the drivers and pressures that degrade nature. And together they're working actively to improve the state of nature and the ecosystem services that they provide. We're often asked, okay, how does it connect to all of the other terms or concepts that are coming up, like circular economy or bioeconomy, for example? We really see the nature positive economy concept as a term that embraces all of those, and so brings together nature-based solutions, bioeconomy practices, circular economy practices, and other concepts that we haven't listed here. I guess this is the most important slide today. First, just to explain on the right side, we've done a lot of research, and that's come out in the publication about what are the key factors that influence nature-based enterprises. And I won't be listing all of them, but there are some are circled in red to show that they mirror opportunities that we've identified for companies to get involved in NBS. These opportunities are primarily, first of all, building capacities to meet the growing demands of NBS, as I've shown it early on this with the triple investment estimation. It's also another big opportunity is the whole innovation and co-creation activities that are possible to work with nature-based enterprises or to become nature-based enterprises even, and to work with all stakeholders and community actors across the supply chain, so leading to increased innovation and market uptake, while embedding it, of course, in the current activities. That's also an important point I forgot to mention, is that it's not a sole or a separate activity, but the idea is to really integrate it for companies in their existing activities. There's also the opportunity, or almost, yes, an opportunity related to the fact that the potential of NBS to mitigate against the nature-related risks and to anticipate NBS standards and legal requirements, such as the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosure, which is going to have a framework coming up by end of 2023. So anticipating this will also help on an economic point of view and make sure you anticipate possible financial requirements stemming from those. And also quantifying and valuing the natural capital that companies have is something that is developing more and more. There's methodologies that are developing, and that definitely can benefit and turn into economic opportunities. And yes, the investment opportunity is also, of course, a major one. With the number of nature-based enterprises that are demultiplying and that require these investments, that need these investments, sorry. So a few take-home messages, and I will close here, is that to summarize, NBS and nature-based enterprises have the potential to drive the transition towards a nature-positive economy, and they need to be supported, promoted, that we raise awareness around them and that we start getting involved. There is a large-scale investment in NBS, which is a significant opportunity, but largely unexplored, and that brings, makes the space or leads the way to a viable route for a nature-based, nature-positive economy. A need for paradigm shift. I mentioned it at the beginning, paradigm shift in economic thinking and policy. So switching our ways of thinking, our hats, our KPIs to prioritize the environmental and social impact first, while simultaneously achieving still the economic goals. And main message, companies have a key role to play and many opportunities to seize. So very happy that we're having this discussion today. And if you I will be sharing the link to the report in the chat, but you can also download it here with the QR code. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joanne. It was really interesting, so I encourage you to read this publication. It's really interesting. So now we will introduce some concrete example with our guests. So I will call Lisa Garnier from RTE. She's at the head of research and development. Now, RTE is a French company for distribution of electricity. You can have a seat. And I will introduce you all the guests today. Then we will have Cora Cremezi Charlet from SNCF, a French railway company that also implement nature-based solution. And we will have also in presential Carme Rosell from Minuartia. She's the director of this Spanish company. She will present some example also. And we will have online, I hope she could make it, it's Dorothée Labarraque from EGIS, also at the head of the technical and sustainable department of this company dedicated to energy production and distribution. So, very familiar workshop. My first question to you is how your company has taken up the NBS concept, and could you give some example and how the NBS has led to opportunities for
I didn't have done some diapositive with our work for the transmission electricity, but I hope you have heard me before about that. Well, all the grid in France is 100,000 kilometers in all of France, and in some place the grid is in the forest. So in the forest, RTE need to cut the tree under the line because you have a certain distance of the power line and the trees, and you must have some security under the power line. So the best solution we have to maintain the security is to cut by gyrogriding. So it's a big machine with need some petrol, and to cut every 3 to 9, 12 years. So it's a regular work. So I've explained with another project, the project Believe, that's an alternative vegetation management. It's a way that we try to use the intelligence of nature and how the plants are growing. So can we pass this? So here we are. So on the left, you have the stepped edge. So there, for example, we can try to just have some cutting, we just cutting the big trees. Or what we can do also is to plant some species that we know that they will not grow very high. And you can plant them in a way that they are very dense. So you know that when you know the tree species, some species are growing very fast, but because they need some light. And if you try to do a dense cover, then you know that there will be less seedling that will grow, and you use the competition. You have less competition for lights because you have all your trees that are very dense and stop the light. So that can be a natural-based solution. Because you use the ecological way, but actually when we have this presentation before, the nature-based solutions are also for climate change, and there you can say, okay, but you are already in a natural area, so you use a nature-based solution, but we don't know if it's really a climate change solution, yes. But in another way, in a substation, for example, where we try to stop the pesticide, we can say that that's also a nature-based solution. And for example, people are working in a substation. Normally, if you have no vegetation, it's on stone, so it's very warm, so it's very difficult for people working there. And when you put the plants, it's not so, the soil is not so warm anymore, and it's much better for people working there, and for the soil and for the nature. And you have, we are working to see if there are more biodiversity when we stop the pesticide. If we change the slides, so here we can also try to work with some farmers and some animals. So we use, instead of using a machine, we try to use animals to cut the land. So that could be also a nature-based solution. But in the same way, is it better or not for the climate? I don't know. And the other slide I wanted to show, it's just this, because I think we have to use our creativity, and these creative men don't know electricity, because this is very dangerous. But but anyway, it's open our mind to try the solution, and I think that's an important way for the future.
Thank you. So we see that this is an ongoing work at RT. Just to come back to this slide, I don't know if you read French, but it's we see the director recruiting the sheep to have better advice, okay, to manage the vegetation under the lines. That's funny. Thank you very much, Lisa, for your presentation. Now, Dorothée, if she is online, we follow with the energy sector, maybe. Can you hear us, Dorothée?
Yes, hello.
Right, hello, Dorothée.
But just to precise, I'm not in energy transport. I'm working in an engineering company, so we work on road, railway, and also quite a little bit energy, but not. Okay, thank you. So EGIS is an international group which work for more than 30 years in transport infrastructure, in design, engineering, and also in operation. So what do nature-based solutions mean for EGIS in the field of transport engineering? First, I think we can separate our approach between two major kinds of infrastructure. We have on one side interurban infrastructure transport, and in the other side urban infrastructure. In the case of intercity infrastructure, in fact, we rely on nature-based solutions more to reduce impact on the environment. For example, by speeding up the renaturation of watercourses, for example, which are redesigned in the framework of works, And then we use soft engineering, plant engineering, and to plant vegetation, use coconut mud banks, for example, instead of hard engineering as a work field or something like that. Another example is we can rely on plants and also trees to elevate the flight of birds, for example, above the motorway, and to reduce the risk of collision when we cross an ecological corridor by the infrastructure. This kind of nature-based solution have been implemented for several years. There is nothing really new in this case. If we can go in the other side. Next, thank you. Other example, we often create grassland with specific species to support biodiversity as insect population. Or sometimes we can use infrastructure space to enable food production by planting an accord, and then we work with local association. And this type of approach is more recent, and I think reflects the awareness following the emergence of the notion of ecosystem services. Next, please. And to illustrate this kind of approach, this is an example of a study on a French motorway, the west of France, and we make a diagnostic of the ecosystem services in the green dependencies. This kind of analysis has conducted us to highlight the existing or the potential benefits that could be produced in green dependencies. So, for interurban infrastructure, the concept of nature-based solution makes it possible to reinforce biodiversity and the benefits that we can derive from it, with, I think, a broader and holistic approach to the role and function of the infrastructure in the territory crossed. Next, please. In the case of urban infrastructure, nature-based solutions are integrated, for example, in a landscape master plan. Here it's an example from the Toulouse subway in the south of France. And then the landscape master plan integrates the function of nature spaces, and for example, function of water regulating, and then we try to maximize the infiltration of raining water on site, or function as regulating the local climate to reduce the effect of heat island in town. And to conclude, I think nature-based solution in engineering requires a cross-functional approach, and it's certainly the major stake of implementation nature-based solution more systematically in engineering. But I think it makes it possible to adapt more environmental measures to each territory, which is crossed by the infrastructure, and to work with and to exchange more with all stakeholders on a territory.
Okay, thank you very much, Dorothée. So, we appreciate. Before going to the question, we let the floor to Cora on the railway sector. Am I correct? And so, how do you implement nature-based solution in your sector in France? And how does it constitute an opportunity for you?
Hello. SNCF, as the French railway, covers the infrastructure manager, but also the railway operators, the station, well, all the sector, let's say. And, well, I will give you a few examples, if you can pass. So the first one is, well, sorry for there's some problem with the presentation. So the first one is an example of wetland restoration. This one is on Charlet, but we have several. And so you see in the on your left, you see the wetland, and on your right, the different actions which have been made. So the photo above is you see someone which is clearing of the brush of the non-adapt vegetation in order to permit the typical vegetation to grow up, and on the other photo you see I don't know exactly 1 or 2 years after, where the good, well, not good, but the typical vegetation of the wetland which grew up. And of course, we had also to explain what is the job done and why, and this work on wetland is really important to help to manage water, and especially to prevent flood problem. So we have several sites along our railways. And next one, please. So this one is another example in city. This example is made with the city of Châlons-en-Champagne, and well, it's not appearing, but AREP, which is one subsidiary company of SNCF in architecture. And this project was to work on the multimodal hub in front of the railway station. And AREP proposed to the city, and they accepted, so it's good, to this kind of project with a lot of presence of vegetation. So you have several places with a lot of vegetation. In the middle, it's the place where the buses are going. And the buses, in fact, turn around the photo you see on your right. And this central spot is made with ditches and a basin to manage rainwaters. And well, you don't see all the detail here, but you have also places with playground, for example, for kids, and place to stand for people. And you can go the next one, please. And also the project include some sparrow nest boxes to have integrated biological control, and also lizard lodge. So of course these photos are not the project. During the project, now you have most vegetation, but I don't have the photo, sorry. And so here we have, well, really taking in account biodiversity, water management, and well, maybe also it can help to fight again the heat islands phenomena, because it's really in the city. Sorry. Next now, yeah. And well, with this slide, we wanted to choose out the concept of nature-based solution can help to think the thing, let's say, differently. So here you have the example of selected seedings, which has been presented at noon by Claire, co-chef. And this is one alternative to pesticide on service tracks. So we put some chosen seedings, and well, thinking of that, we said, wow, it's more or less in urban places, and we change the soil with, it's the same, your example, in fact. And so we have begun some thinking about that, some investigation, and we made a short calculation which shows that with the vegetation, the temperature on the soil can be decreased until up to 20 degrees in some cases, and so we think that, as you said, that it can be a better comfort for workers first, and we would like to explore if it can help here again to reduce the heat island effect for the people around, but we have to make some calculation for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cora. We can see that there is several dimensions actually when you think of NBS in a project of infrastructure. It's really interesting.
It's ongoing. We really are.
It's an ongoing work.
Yes, by ourselves. What can we do with this?
Next, we have Carme. I forgot to say, but she's also a member of the governance board of the ENGIE. And we know her. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the slides? Yeah. I will use some slides just to show you some real cases that the companies that are working with us, well, my company is mainly specialized in providing services to avoid bird strikes, animal vehicle collisions, so more on risk avoidance. But we are experts on biodiversity, and more we are also helping these public or private companies not only to prevent risks, but also to benefit biodiversity. So I'm showing some examples that we have developed with Catalan Airport, AENA, which is the Spanish airports manager, ADIF, which is the company managing railways in Spain, and Suez and Veolia, that it's not in transport infrastructure, but in water management infrastructure, but you will see that many can also be applied. So just to show some examples, this is, let's say, a bank of ideas, yeah? So first is to use these green walls, or there is another one that is a green roof that we are applying, or that they can apply in the buildings associated with the management of the infrastructure. Next, please. This is an airfield. This is an airfield in an airport in the south of Catalonia, and it's managed in the way that, as you see, it's also benefiting many animals, wildlife. Sometimes it's going to be quite fast, Charlotte, so be ready. not this one, the first. Sometimes in the airfields we are working with endophytes. I don't know if you know this fungus that give bad taste to the pastures. This is in the airport of Madrid. And in one of the airports in Menorca Island, we have already succeeded in manage all the airport with not using any pesticide to kill the insects. Yeah. Of course, in all infrastructures there is a lot of land that can be used. In transport is road bridges, but also resting areas. There are many places. This is water management. All this was like abandoned land, and the gardens now are adapted to drought. You don't need to put water on them because we have serious problems to provide water to our gardens. So this is a garden road, but you will see that we have in structures to provide refuges for pollinators, rocks, where there are reptiles that are living in this area. So we are reducing the maintenance, providing gardens, but also habitats for animals. Of course, opportunities in retention ponds that can be naturalized, retention drainage, green drainages also. This is more in urban areas. Restoration of ponds, but if we see these two examples, very different. One of them is just a very small ponds in Mediterranean habitats that are temporary habitats, but very important, don't need so much maintenance. And the other one is in the airport of Barcelona. These require high investments on maintenance, particularly because the challenge here is you provide benefits for biodiversity, but not creating any risk for the navigation of the airplane. So it's even a little more complicated, yeah, but we succeed. So. And also there are some restoration opportunities that this is, yeah, thinking big, restoring rivers, Posidonia, also in sea, Posidonia restoration, so. And the last, the Bank of Ideas is finished, I think. Oh, sorry. No, we also, don't forget that you need sometimes to provide measures to reduce animal mortalities, because when you go green, then you are attracting animals, and you are responsible for not wearing these animals to a place where there is a risk of mortality, yeah? So you have to prevent collisions with buildings, and all this is our colleagues on the different airports have to rescue many times animals that may construct the nest on some of these areas. In substation, this is the high-speed railway, an electric substation where we have falcotinunculus. So we have to provide different systems, or to avoid nesting, or to rescue the chicken? No, the chicks. The chicks, sorry, not the chicken. Okay. And this is the most important slide for me. Yeah, that it's our message that this is, well, you cannot see, but if that you need to, is the plant, do, follow, and then evaluate what you are doing. So we have three crucial steps in all these things. That is, first, a very good diagnosis to see which opportunities do you have, and so to know what is inside your infrastructure, but also in the surroundings. You can identify which is the opportunity you have, which is the best habitat, which is the most endangered species that you can contribute to recover, yeah? So this is a very, very critical step for us. The second one is to identify the key performance indicators. Our colleagues with Andreas talk about this. We have many indicators that the workers, the crews that are working in these installations help to identify, to obtain these indicators. So you involve them. And the third is somebody has to evaluate the results of all these, and if then to decide if we continue. No, we need sometimes to change something. And it's all from myself.
Thank you very much, Carme. Very interesting. It's very diverse, and we see that the definition of nature-based solution is broad enough to allow companies to appropriate the concept and make different things to restore biodiversity or to protect her. Before I ask other questions to you, because I have, do you have questions? Wait, Pierre.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the vegetation on railway tracks. I've had this discussion with Deutsche Bahn quite a few times, because I was wondering whether we could actually use that to get rid of invasive species, because the Deutsche Bahn has a lot of problems with invasive species. And it's, as far as I know, one of the largest users of pesticides in Germany, because they have to get rid of all the vegetation on the tracks. So I was wondering, if you grow vegetation and you kind of outcompete invasive species, why is it not used more frequently? I've been asking this question several times. I've never got a satisfying answer from any kind of railway operator, because I see that as a very good alternative.
Well, maybe I will let my colleagues to be more precise, but the example given here is not everywhere. It's really on a service track, and it's not specifically to fight invasive species. It's to avoid to use. It's an alternative to use pesticide to say, okay, we have already vegetation, but not specifically invasive species, and okay, let's say, okay, well, we accept. We can, on this services track, not everywhere, we can accept a kind of vegetation, not too high, and for that we choose what we put, and in order to fight the other, and to have let's say an adapt vegetation. About invasive species, we have several projects to find solution. One will be present, I think so, tomorrow by Valentin Morin on it's a reef project. It's about plant competition, but I can't say no more details, sorry. And well, we try to find solution, but as far as I know, on the sides of the track, we don't use so much, and maybe not at all, pesticide, I think so. But if you can add something, my dear colleagues.
Sorry for my English, too precise. Chosen seating is on only service tracks, because the trains are going maximum around 30 kilometers per hour and less. On the main tracks, they are going so fast, and if the vegetation deform the platform, it could be very hard for people and there's an accident. And chosen seating is compete undesirable vegetation and not only invasive. So it's a most large selection for us, for SNCF Réseau. And for example, it's an experimentation, and we tried to compete the ambrosia. Ambrosia, you know this plant? Okay. And in the region of Lyon, in the south of France, and it didn't function. So we are working on a new mixture that compete more the ambrosia, and if we have to work on the green dependence, it could be different. For example, there are a big program Reeves for the invasive competition that is deployed, but in fact, when I walk around the railway, I see, oh, Clematis is concurrencing the Japan, comment dire renoué, Japanese knotweed, I think, okay. But Clematis is not compatible with the railway track, because it grows maybe 15 meters a year and going on the rail track, so it's not a solution for us. So it's difficult. Each part of the infrastructure necessitates to work on a special solution. Okay, I wish it's okay for you. Okay,
just one question for clarification. So speed would be one limitation for growing vegetation. So up to 30 kilometers, like very slow trains or trams. There you can use vegetated tracks, but not on faster ones. The
norms on service tracks are different, because the risk is different. Maybe the trains can have an accident, but there is nobody in, and it's not really important for us. Yeah. We choose this way, but the norm is no vegetation on tracks, every tracks. Yeah. So it's we take more liberty free to do this project because it's not the norm. Okay.
Thank you. Merci. Other question?
Thank you for this question that raised the point that the nature-based solution is also how do you say it depends on the situation that you consider. It's very it depends on local, yes. So I had one question for Dorothée. Dorothée, can you still hear us?
Yes.
Yes. Can you explain to us what are the... so you said that it's been a while since you use nature-based solutions, but you are still facing some challenges. And can you explain to us what are the main challenges for you in your company to implement nature-based solution?
Yes, so we identified several challenges, but it's not the only one. The first one perhaps is that the nature-based solution involves a dialogue between services which are not used to work together. For example, the service in our client who work on to support the design and the delivery of a project. And in the other side, water service or landscape service, which are working on the operation and maintenance of the infrastructure. These actors are often not generally work very separately and are not easily to mobilize on a project at the stage of the conception. And moreover, this mobilization takes time, and this time is generally not included in our offer for private company, because the term of reference generally don't provide nature-based solution. So it's quite difficult for us to implement this kind of solution because it needs a different way to work, and so if the client is not in the same framework, it's quite difficult. And there is also, and it's not the less, a lot of technical barriers related to the cohabitation between in city between many issues, for example, underground works and the root system of trees. There is a lot of uncertainties, and we need research to define a boundary condition to mobilize a nature-based solution. And there is also, as a nature-based solution in general is quite new, there is still question about how to apply guarantee and responsibility to the supervisor and the works company. As it's not clarified and stabilized, it's sometimes difficult to implement this kind of solution.
Thank you, Dorothée. So yes, so it's difficult for a project manager to take the NBS until the all along the cycle of the project. I guess you should put the NBS in the contract since the beginning to be able to follow this concept until the end. Does someone of you want to say something? Okay, time. Yeah, behind you.
I have an additional question to the companies. In one of the presentations, it was said that it's a need to quantify and value natural capital to strengthen the nature-based economy. So I was wondering if your companies and your project proposals that you were presenting, if you have a yearly budget for investments in this kind of projects. And I know it's a step-by-step approach, but you should also report about your developments, I think. So it would be, how you call it, a strategy to enlarge your budget and your investments, and to report about the venues that you earn from these investments. Is it possible to say something about it?
So RTE has a budget to do some alternative vegetation management, and those hectares we transformed are part of our goal, and to have I don't know the name, ISO 14001, to have
a norm, standard.
Yes, to have a standards. So we have that, and we show the results. We have also we have done a study. I don't know if it's part of the question, but I've worked with a student that have been looking at ecosystem services about when we work with landowner and when we use sheep or other animals, and she asked them how much they per hectare they can win because they don't pay the land they are using for the animals, and it was between 300 to 800 euro per hectare. So we can say that we help. It's an environmental benefit and for the society. That, and she worked also with the les chasseurs, the hunters, and she asked them also how much they have to pay, and if they want to pay to have some vegetation alternative management under the power line, and it was also a certain amount of money that they wanted to put in there. To use. So it's like part of evaluation of the cultural benefits, services of having those partners with us, and to change the vegetation management.
You have now yearly budget for whole France?
For whole France, we have biodiversity politics that have 500,000 per year, and also in the vegetation politic, the same amount of money to spread the initiative. Now it's very difficult because you have to find, you have to do the consultation with the landowners, and you have to find what you want to do under the power line, and if it's possible to have a farmer or not. There are always some in the Ardennes, for example, where there are a lot of hunters. It was really difficult to have a farmer because hunters and farmers don't like each other, because you have some animals going in the land and you're in the middle of the forest, so you have social problem inside, and so it's take a lot of time.
Carme, you want to complete the answer?
No, it's just to explain that we have very different types of situations. So there are some companies that have a budget for biodiversity, mainly part of the sustainable department and like a corporative strategy. So they have a budget for this kind of actions. But in other situations, even some of them are in some platforms like Transport for Nature, and they make annual reports and participate in meetings, international meetings, and I think it is very encouraging because for them is, let's go, what are we going to present to the next meeting? But we also have the situations of companies that if you ask to the CEO or to the women, if it's a woman, to provide some budget for biodiversity, it will probably say, what? Then in these companies, we are also working a lot, but sometimes the approach is more, let's find a win-win solution that we are going to reduce the problems that we have with birds on the airfield by providing, I don't know what. So it's like you can go top-down or down-top. So I think any situation can be, well, in different companies you can use different strategies.
And well, if I take the example of SNCF, at the moment we don't really say that we are doing NBS, in fact, but we are thinking about it and how it can help us, in fact. So, for example, we think that as the climate subject is quite well understood and taken in account at SNCF, we think that it can be opportunities, in fact, to use synergy and maybe to have more budget to do biodiversity. Now, you see, if we can really merge the two subjects, biodiversity and climate, it will be maybe easier, but we are really thinking about it at the moment. And in fact, we are some experts who are thinking on that and how we will present the opportunities we think that we can have with that, but it's really ongoing.
Thank you.
I want always to say that the budget for the electricity grid is given by the regulator, and so we have to show what we are doing and if it's sustainable financially also, so that they continue to give us the money or to invest more on that possibility. And this is a great challenge.
We have a question here.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Egle. I'm for Austrian Motorway Company. And I would like to know, I don't remember who was explaining about seeds, biodiversity seeds near to road.
Dorothée.
How is solution for FFH rules? Because if we have some works for safety, for traffic safety, we cannot do something if there are some insects or something like that from FFH. It's our problem in Austria. And second thing, what I want to say, we don't use any pesticide since 2015, but we have really big problems with invasive plants. And it's coming more and more. So it's just to think, I'm okay with this, but we are researching, we are trying, I don't know how to fight with them.
Maybe you can have an answer here.
I can react about two persons. I think it's we don't have to think a special budget of biodiversity. I think that we can think differently. In fact, today, to maintain the vegetation without pesticide or with the invasive, etc., it don't function as we want. So we have to invest differently to maintain as we have to maintain. You understand? Yes, and it's possible. It's not. We know that it's more difficult when we change, when we are changing and conduce the changement. We need to think differently. It's not 20 years before we didn't maintain all our infrastructures as the same as today, and we didn't have a budget separate to perform and to change. Today, if we think differently, for example, for my chosen setting, it's simple. We constate that the maintenance was not good because there were a lot of invasives on the tracks, so pesticides didn't function. We invest to put vegetation, but now we have only one mowing per year. It's cheaper after than the last maintenance. You understand what I mean?
We don't use since over 7 years pesticide, but maintenance is not enough. We have to fight against.
There are a lot of
7 years ago there was no invasive plants, and now we have over 2,000 kilometers in Austria, all from invasive plants.
There are a lot of zones in France, for example, where we don't use pesticides since a lot of years because of the law of water law or something like that. It's not a new subject. So the more difficult is to think differently the first time, and after. It necessitates maybe more work every year, but it's not for more expensive. Or there is the first. It depends.
Yeah,
it
depends.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah. But I think
that's good. That's a good thing. I'm sorry.
I can make a suggestion.
We are about to close the workshop. Thank you for Dorothée and Joanne who are online. Thank you very much. Can you hear us again?
Yes.
But please, Joanne, a few words to close the meeting.
Yes.
Please, we can hear.
I just wanted to respond, but I'm not sure if I still have time.
No, please be quick and maybe just give us your impression, and then we will close the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Well, maybe just bouncing back on the last questions that were asked, it really resonates with what came out of our work, which is really a need for capacity building and sharing of best practices and learnings across the actors. So all that I'm saying it sounds kind of like buzzwords, but it's actually really super important. And the example that you give with the invasive species shows that it's really also has to be cross-sectoral. The agriculture field sector, they have the same issues. I would suggest to go and discuss with networks like the 4 per Mil network or with conservation agriculture groups, and there are international organizations working on that fight every day with invasive species and try to turn it around so that it becomes a benefit and that they are dealt with in a natural way. So that would be a suggestion as an example of how to build capacity and exchange with each other on these issues and challenges, because they're big, and it's really a brand new topic that's coming up. And also regarding regulations, to bounce back on what was said earlier, it's both a constraint and an opportunity. So one of the recommendations, we have lots of recommendations coming out of that white paper, but it's really to discuss together and to try to come closer to the policymakers and to be active in making the regulations. So both on the constraint aspect, but also on the benefits and the co-evaluation, the evaluation of the benefits. So that's just 2 pieces of recommendations, and I'd be happy to discuss more if you have more questions or need more advice, and be sure to take a look at that white paper if you get the chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.